we got Jackson Yonkis. He's the running backs coach at Laurier. He's going to talk about gap scheme.
Excited that everybody could be on here tonight. Like Paul said, my name is Jackson Yonkis, and I got to give Paul some credit. No one gets my last name right, so I appreciate that. Like you mentioned, I also run 3 Down Development, which is a social media platform, YouTube channel, trying to help keep the football conversation going in Canada and help, coaches like you guys and lots of the people find resources about the Canadian game. So I want to talk about taking gap scheme, which is obviously, a very broad term, and kind of conceptualizing it or breaking it into pieces that your players can understand and you can use to kind of help, draw those things together. I think, zone scheme, obviously, some of the benefits in terms of continuity between plays, it keeps things very simple up front. I think if you teach, things like traditional power and counter conceptually, I think you can achieve the same results in terms of simplicity for your players. So that's kind of the topic today. Why gap scheme? You change the run fit. And I actually use this picture at the top. I hate when my running backs got to run through holes with guys with square shoulders. And I found with some of our gap scheme stuff, you get linebackers that have to, adjust their run fit based on 1 or 2 pullers or the movement of a fullback across the set. And anytime I can get a picture of my guy, running through arm tackles is great, but running through open shoulders is even better. So that's one of the reasons as a running back coach why I love gap scheme. And I think it's important to have mixed in with what you do as well. You create angles and pullers. Once upon a time, and Zach can attest to this, I was a very undersized offensive lineman. And so angles and pullers I've always been quite fond of. I don't know whether I let that bias creep too much into my professional life now or what, but anytime I can have great leverage if I'm in a double team, or if I can use that opportunity to pull and create momentum that way to my advantage, I like doing that, and a lot of my players have enjoyed that. Very versatile. It depends who you watch. You can be spread. You can be 21 personnel. At Laurier, we've messed around with a lot of different things in the last 6 or 7 years, but the gap scheme stuff has been good to us out of a variety of sets. And you got lots of different options, but the same techniques. And yes, zone blocking for sure. The continuity, the carryover in those double teams is excellent, but I think you can break gap schemes down into component parts that you can rep, work, and feel really, your players can feel strongly about. While it may be a subtly different play, they really are identifying those component parts, and you have a chance to rep it, and it's a little less complex from the inside. So fundamental gap concepts, I look at it with these 3 things. What we call at Laurier the power counter double, because we use it in both our power stuff and our counter stuff. It is the fundamental aspect of this play. It's always highlighted in red on the diagrams. If you don't have a good power counter double, the play's over, in my opinion. Okay, unless your back's going to do something special or your puller is really, really good. If you don't have a great double team to start any of this stuff, you're going to be in trouble. We'll talk about that in a sec. The kick out's kind of the second most important thing. If you get a solid power counter double, you're not going to have a lot of negative plays. If you get a good kick out, you're probably going to have a lot of positive plays. And then if you can get that pull through that last piece of the power counter, series, you're really going to be cooking with gas. So I just color coded those. You'll see in all the diagrams, as we get to it, they're all those same colors. You can see kind of the differences and similarities. Really, I see gap scheme, and I know you could talk about trap and some other stuff in 15 minutes. I wanted to focus on traditional power and counter, and then kind of where is that going, and what do I see in the game today that is also in that same family of plays. So on the top left, you have your traditional power. Your fullback and puller, are working to that play side. Your play side doubles working to the second linebacker in the box. So you see that in red there, working to the mic. You're going to kick out from your fullback and a pull through from your guard. Fairly standard. Most people, I would imagine, have seen some of that. In terms of counter, really the only difference to me is now obviously how much misdirection you want to use is up to you. And what your mesh is like is up to you. But typically there's going to be some misdirection in the mesh with counter, whereas in power, typically there's not. Your fullback's going to be on the opposite side. So usually, when you're running a counter type scheme, it's off of a power look. And now you're going to get your kick out is actually going to come from your guard, and your pull through is going to come from your tackle. Power counter double stays the exact same. And then this one I go back and forth on whether I like calling it power F or counter F more. To me, that really depends on the mesh. But now we're not going to pull two linemen, so it's going to have the same backside as power. But our guard is going to be the kick out player, and our fullback or tight end or H-back in your system, whatever it looks like, they're going to pull through and work up to the linebackers. So you can see there in all three diagrams the things I like, the things that are the same. Because, again, I think gap scheme kind of gets a bad name for maybe being more complicated than zone scheme. Really, to me, some stuff on the backside, there's a lot of preferences there. Really, you're going to be two for three, trying to take the inside of those two guys and cancel the A and B gaps. But on the front side, you're always going to have your power counter double working to the second player in the box at depth. Your kick out block, which in traditional power would be your fullback, in counter would be your pulling guard, and in counter or power F, the bottom diagram there is going to be your fullback, and then your pull through is then the third piece of that, depending on what scheme you're running as well. So traditional power, just blew it up a little bit small on the last page. There's a lot, depending on who you talk to, what footwork would you use in that double team? At Laurier, we really focus on getting vertical dent out of that double team. So our guard is going to check the A gap. So we actually step with our inside foot kind of up and down on that first step. If that Mike wants to run through the A gap, he's the guards all day. But most teams we see, they're going to run that Mike over the top of the double with the puller. So it's the tackle's job to deliver the three tech down to the play side guard, those tackle and guard in red there on the right. And the reason I have the back's path in red is I want the back off the hip of that double team. So he's going to read the puller, but his aiming point is off the hip of the double team. If that end really goes inside and our guard has to pull around, we call that the ass line. It's going to be then we're going to read the extension of that double team, which is that fullback's block. In terms of counter, very, very similar. Obviously, like I alluded to, usually you're going to have a little more misdirection. And, this is maybe more traditional like eye counter or pistol counter. We're going to now pull the guard and the tackle. And you're still going to have your same double team on the front side, looking to wall off that second linebacker in the box. Again, just drew it up here as the Mike. Your fullback is normally showing power the opposite way. Now, there's a lot of really good Oklahoma film. You can read the backside end if it's at a one back, and there's tons of different things you can do on the backside. But your guard is now going to work that kick out. Whether it's a fullback or a guard, I like teaching that guy to use the flipper. Same foot, same shoulder. It's very similar. Honestly, our power step, we call it, that last step before contact is very similar to teaching tackling. So for the high school coaches who are maybe using like a middle linebacker at fullback, we actually recruit mostly linebackers to play fullback. We've had a ton of success with that, or bigger running backs. But again, guys that might not have a ton of experience blocking, often they can relate it to tackling. Here's the guard doing it obviously in counter. Same thing, same foot, same shoulder, going to kick that guy out, pull the tackle up and through. Tackle's got to read the block of the puller, same as the guard would have to read the block of the fullback in traditional power. Now, interestingly enough, this is probably the version we see the most for the Ontario guys who are listening to this. Western runs a ton of this. Now that there's a bunch of Western guys at Queens, they run a ton of this. Waterloo's run this in the past. We've certainly run it. And I put counter or power F being for the fullback as the second pillar. The reason I did that is because some teams will do more misdirection than others. At Laurier, we've run this as more of a power switch or power F. Other teams will do it as more of a counter. But ultimately, you're now going to be able to pull that fullback and get him in the second level. And the backside plays out just like power, or just like the backside of power. You could block back on the quick if you wanted to, and then not block the will. That's up to you. Or that third backer in the box. But ultimately, your guard's kicking out, your fullback's pulling through. So what I like about these three plays, if you teach the concept, again, going back, these three things, right? Your power counter double, footwork's the same, who they have is the same, execution's the same. That kick out block, you got to teach it to your fullbacks, you got to teach it to your guards. Ultimately, that buys you three plays, in my opinion. the pull through, you got to teach it to your guard, you got to teach it to your tackle. You may even teach it to your fullback if you want to run all three variations. To me, this gives you tremendous flexibility as a coach to use formations, use motions, use different personnel groups to run a variety of plays with these three core fundamental concepts at the base of it. So if you look back at these three plays, all different run fits for the defense. You could add another fullback or tight end. I have some film if I don't run up on that 15-minute mark too much that I can show you guys of that. But ultimately, to me, you're getting three plays in one by teaching those three core concepts. So just a couple wrinkles. Okay, what if you're a spread guy? You're here for Coach Scotto's zone presentation. I get it. What can I steal from this? Well, you can run one back power. I actually really like it. We ran it last year at Laurier. Some people call it, it's like a dart concept. We ran it where we would pull the tackle as well if we got a three tech on the backside. But you still have those three core pieces. You still have your pull through is now the slot, right? So that fullback, or you can just do it out of a 5 receiver set right up here in Canada, and you're going to use that fullback or that inside slot to block the Sam. Good thing about that is he's already 7-8 yards out of the box. You have your double team from the same double team working to now it's that first linebacker in the box because you're not in a 2-back set. So a little bit of teaching there, and now your kick out comes from the guard. You could RPO the backside, read the backside, totally up to you. This is one that less teams have run that honestly we've made a living off of at Laurier, which we call our lock concept. We do it mostly out of 21 personnel. If you have a grimy slot back who can block a Sam, which we've had guys like Arkarakis, McCracken, Peterman, guys that have a great crease for us. Basically what we mean by power lock, and I know I'm going quick. I don't know how close I am to that 15 minutes. We're going to run the same power concept. So we're going to have our power counter double, second linebacker in the box. Now we're going to add a tight end or a fullback on the front side. He's going to be our kick out. Now, we've often run this as more of an extension of the down block as opposed to a kick out, but it just depends where the end lines up. And now our fullback or that slot adding into the box, he's now going to become the puller. And we're just going to keep our backside guard in another power counter double, working back to that backside linebacker. What we like about this version is we're a big inside zone team, and this looks a lot like inside zone weak, but ends up hitting like power strong. There will be a fourth linebacker in the box. Some teams will run him over the top with the fullback. Others will try and bump these guys. We've just found that guy almost never gets successfully into the run fit. And this has been a great first down play for us, or, even a play that's been explosive for us depending on the opponent. So looking at that, looks like I'm right up on my 15 minutes. So I will turn it back over to you guys. Do you guys usually do questions at this point, or?
Yeah. So can you put it back on your the third one, the F?
Yep.
And then there's a question on YouTube. Are your guard and tackle using a code word when they are releasing to the mic?
Okay, here. So I'm still sharing my screen. Okay.
Yeah.
So for all of these, it's a good question. Like I said, that doubles the key to the whole thing. So if you're talking about the guard and tackle on the front side, we want to make sure that both those guys have to see the mic pre and post snap. So we want to get as much done as we can on that double team. Some teams you'll face are more downhill. We use more physical, that like body to body communication. So if that mic is going over the top, we should have this play side guard throwing his hip, elbow, and shoulder into the tackle. We've just found that, that 300 pounds banged India is a little clearer to understand than a word, maybe at if there's crowd noise or it's heat of the moment type thing. You can, but we've used more of the physical communication for sure.
In a cover 2 look, would you just bring that double all the way back to the will and insert the fullback?
Awesome question. And one thing me and Coach Scotto both learned, we played for Irv Damon, who's was our O-line coach when we were there, one of the 2 guys that we had. And he was the first guy who really showed us that in the Canadian game. Like, you don't get necessarily a lot of cover 2, but you get like quarters looks where the boundary half might not be in the fit, things like that. Yeah, so every chance we get, like we go 31 2-back a ton, every chance we get to push that double one more guy down and pull for the mic and have it hit really tight, we'll take it. So if that Sam linebacker is out on a receiver, we'll all day. We'll have our center adjust the point. And, that's the preferred look for us. We're always trying to scheme that up if we can.
Awesome. Excellent. If anybody else had any questions, you guys can go ahead and unmute and ask it.
And feel free to reach out to me on Twitter, or I run the 3Down Development Instagram as well. So, I'm happy to, if someone wanted to talk more in depth, I'm happy to.